everyone, welcome to another round of Chitter Chatter. Today we're going to chit chat with this man who is behind numerous literary journeys. All the authors swear by him. Yes, today the whole chit chat is about books, breakthroughs, and book bakers. So please welcome Suhail Mathur on this Chitter Chatter. So today we are going to discuss with Suhail what is the journey been like? How did he decide to become a literary agent? What is it like connecting with the publications, with the authors? So today's entire chitter chatter is with Suhail on what is it like to be connected with the authors, with the publication houses? How does he bridge the gap between both of them? And what is important in a manuscript? What happens when authors reach out to you? What catches his eye? And a lot more. And he should be joining in super soon.
You can see me now, right?
Okay. Hi, Suhail. Welcome to
What's
Chitter
up?
Chatter. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm doing very well. Yeah, I'm doing very well. I was just trying to set up the lights a bit here or there because I've just moved into a new place. So I wanted to see how it's looking. So you're the first person I'm doing an interview with from the new office. So yeah, it's always good. How are you doing? How are you
And
feeling?
I love the books behind all the books that I can see, though it's too far off, so I can't read the
How are you feeling?
titles.
Can you
But
hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's begin our chitter chatter. Take us back to the beginning. Where did you decide to start this journey of literature and publishing?
I can hear you now. Yeah, actually, I think there is a slight lag, but that's okay. We'll figure something out.
So take us back to the beginning. How you did your journey into literature and publishing begin?
Let me should I join in again because there is a lag. There is
Okay, sure.
oh basically the publishing journey, so to say, because I mean I think for you to begin or for anyone to begin their publishing journey or literary journey, the interest in literature needs to build from a very nascent age, and I think that really happened because from a very young age I was interested in reading books, and I was always interested in knowing about stories and the art of writing, and stories always fascinated me. Since I was a child, I was very fascinated in knowing about Indian mythology, and my mother used to always read out Amar Chitra Kathas. I have a huge collection of Amar Chitra Kathas even today. So I think that became the genesis, and of course, more and more stories. I remember the first time the Ramayana was read out to me was by my father, and there was this thick Amar Chitra Katha on the Ramayana. I know he used to read it out to me, And then of course more and more literature as you keep on growing, the Enid Blytons, the Sherlock Holmes, and the Tintins of the world, Archie, Richie Rich, comics basically. And so the important thing is to grasp all kinds of literature, the classics also, children's classics. You'd read Ivanhoe, or you'd read Mutiny on HMS Bounty, all those kind of you know uh, books one would read, Treasure Island, so on and so forth. So I think that journey gradually helped in not only understanding storytelling but also refining one's language as one kept on growing. And of course, when I was in college, I was reading a lot of Indian literature, and I thought that Indian writers, the plots that they came up with, the stories that they came up with, and the narrative structure that they had was very encouraging and interesting for any normal reader. And I was always wondering that why do we not have a greater appetite, to devour such amazing content. During that time, I used to see a lot of people from the IIMs and IITs write books. And I was in, the National Law University in Delhi, which is an equivalent to the IIMs and IITs in the legal world, that is. And I thought that, someone must take the onus of writing something very interesting. And that was one of the factors. But I was very sure that whatever I write, I wouldn't write for the sake of writing. Because at the end of the day, I mean, it has to be a good product, right? I mean, you're also,
Right.
an accomplished author, and you've written something about an industry you know very well. So I think it's very important that you write something that comes naturally to you. So history and mythology were two things that really fascinated me, and I knew that if I was to write a book, it had to be a culmination of both of these. And yeah, I mean, that's how the Bhairav Putras came in. I saw a film. I'm forgetting the name of the movie right now, but it was a very interesting. I think it was called The Deceivers, and it starred Pierce Brosnan along with Shashi Kapoor and Saeed Jaffrey. So it was an Indo-British collaboration, and I saw that film, and I was like, this is the kind of book that I've been wanting to write. I mean, not in terms of the storyline, but in terms of the setting. And I always wanted to write something where I could infuse mythology. So the very next day, actually, I sat down to write the Bhairav Putras. And now the question that arose was that I wanted a god associated with the book, but whom do you choose? So I wanted a god, who could lend himself well to a cult also, and could be a dark god. But I did not want goddess Kali because the deceivers already had it. Uh, Also, the thing is that I wanted a god, who not those many people may know of in comparison to say some of the popular gods in the country. So that gives you an opportunity to play around with the storyline. And I also happen to worship the child version of Lord Bhairav called Batuk Bhairav, who's a very sweet, calming influence. And I thought that, here is a god who's actually technically an avatar of Lord Shiv, and while everyone knows about Lord Shiv, people may not necessarily know that much about Lord Bhairav in detail. So that really became the crux of how this started, and of course the story was then developed before I wrote. So I always create the story before I start writing. So I have the beginning, middle, and end with me. What I do is that I create pointers. I create a list of say 50, 60 pointers. So that what that does is that allows you to write confidently, and you're never worried about getting into a writer's block, because if you already have 60 pointers, then वो pointers बढ़ेंगे ही, कम तो नहीं होंगे. You'll get another idea during the course of the 5-6 months you're writing it, and then you'll add something more to it. So I think that definitely helped. And yeah, the book happened, but I must take this opportunity. I think we all make it sound very hunky dory always, but I think since you have done this interview, I'll bring out some nuggets of information. So the process of writing the book was smooth. In fact, getting a publisher was also smooth, but there was a very strange journey to it before it actually got published, and I'll just share that with you because I don't think I've shared it on any other platform. So I wrote the book, and I got multiple offers for the Bhairav Putras, and we were very happy. And there was this one, publishing house who was very interested, very keen on doing the book. There was this lady, and she seemed very nice, and I met her also in person. We signed up, Now that was a publishing house that actually did a lot of non-fiction, and they wanted to, get into the fiction space with 2 3 books, one of which was mine. And my book was scheduled to release at the World Book Fair the following year from when they had signed me up. In the interim, the first book that they had to release, in the fiction space came out, and unfortunately it tanked. All right, so it tanked, and for some reason it made them believe that fiction was not their cup of tea. So I was very confident that this book was going to do well, but for some reason they were of the opinion that probably fiction is not something that they should predominantly look at. So how it happened was, obviously, you can't tell someone that no, no, we're not going to do it. So situations were created that, you know they created a cover which had absolutely no relation to the book. I mean, the book is the book is set in pre-independent India. So they actually created a cover which was similar to Lagan, in the sense that they created a Sikh character over there and all, and my book doesn't have any Sikh character. So all those kind of things, and the nature of the artwork was also something that left a lot to be desired. And obviously, when there are wholesale changes, the publisher does get a little feels that okay, this is a lot of work up their sleeve. So then they said that get the cover done on your own, and then it became get the editing done on your own, and it became get the printing done on your own. So I mean, you're getting everything. So all those things. So eventually, I decided to pull out because I could see that the publisher did not share the same vision that I shared. And I'm a person, Shweta, who, if I'm getting into something and I intend to make it a success, I will make it a success, or I'll say that I can make it a success only when I think I will actually be able to do so. I mean, because making hollow claims or tall claims is not really in my personality. Because then, if it doesn't happen, then people just think that, oh, so and so was saying you'll do this and you'll do that. So in fact, I'll tell you what. I won a reality show. I won a reality show once, and it came on a very prominent channel. So when I had when I had cleared the zonal and I came first, so the TV guys told me that chalo आपको बोलना है मैं आ रहा हूँ मुंबई जीतने this that. So I said I'm not going to say all of that. नहीं जीता तो सब मेरे पे ही हंसेंगे कि भाई ये तो बोल रहा था कि जीत जाएंगे, all those kind of things. So I mean, I'd rather let my work, talk for me. So anyhow, I changed the publisher, and there was this another new age publisher who was doing really well on Facebook, saying that we are signing up new authors, doing XYZ things. They came out with their first couple of books, good covers and all, and suddenly, so my cover was ready and all, and my book was put on pre-orders also, where it became a bestseller. It became the highest selling product. During those times, Amazon hadn't made its entry. Flipkart was a benign presence as far as books were concerned. There were two platforms that really did the bulk of book sales. One was InfiBeam, if you remember, InfiBeam.com, and the other was Home Shop 18. So,
Yeah, I
so
remember that.
in 2013, 2014, those guys were really the ones who were ruling the roost. So, my book was placed over there, and a lot of people were buying. And suddenly, the publisher went missing. Okay,
Oh,
he stopped responding to calls, and no response to emails. And if you, I mean, were lucky enough, after 6 7 8 days a message would come, and the message would also be like things like, say, अरे मेरे फैक्ट्री में आग लग गई तो मेरी बहुत सारा स्टॉक खराब हो गया है तो अभी टाइम लगेगा, या मेरा एक्सीडेंट हो गया है मैं इधर चला गया हूँ, those kind of things. So I was in college, and I remember I went one day with my wife, you know then girlfriend, obviously, uh, to Daryaganj, where the publisher had an office. And we went to the office, and there was this one guy sitting over there, and I said, where is the publisher? And he said that, अरे सर वो तो पिछले 3 महीने से ऑफिस नहीं आए हैं, मेरे को 3 महीने से सैलरी नहीं मिली है, and all those kind of weird things. So the advantage that I had was that it had already recorded very high pre-orders. Okay, it had recorded very high pre-orders. So there were a lot of publishers who wanted to take it up because they would straight away get those pre-orders. So it wasn't a
right.
problem. Of course, it's a little distressing, because if you're expecting a book to come out at some point of time and there is no clue when it will come, and so on and so forth. So that was that. Then finally, one fine day, one of the very good things that that publisher did was that he called me up and he said that, Suhail, I've found some publisher. He's starting his new imprint. He's a best-selling author. He wants to start his own company, and he wants to start off with your book. So I'm transferring the rights of your book to him. You meet him. So I said, okay, thank you very much. Thanks for eventually bailing me out. I mean, credit where due, because he did not necessarily do that for all the other authors.
Correct.
But I mean, you could also say that the book had proven itself in terms of sales and what the market was saying, so it was an easier sell for him also. But I'm always a person who would like to give credit where due. So he was able to do that for me, and then eventually my book came out with a beautiful packaging. It was an embossed cover. Mr. Vineet Bansal, who had written a couple of national best-selling books himself, published that, and yeah, it was great. So from the time my book was initially supposed to come out till it eventually came out, it took around 2 years from there. So a
Wow.
lot of very interesting things that happened in between. But the good thing is that you should never give up. The point is that, and Shweta, that was in 2013, 2014. Now the market has totally changed. So now the publishers have so much of volume that the bigger the brand, they will take that much time. So, if it's a younger publisher, probably 4 to 6 months. But if it's a big publishing brand, minimum time that they'll usually take would be at least 12 to 18 months. And there are some publishers who even take 3 years, 4 years to release it. But as a literary agent, I always tell my authors that, look, you need to figure out, are you willing to wait for 3 years? You know, because the brand is a huge brand. And I don't tell them what is the right answer or not, because technically there is no right or wrong answer. It really depends on the author. So there are some who say that, yeah, we'll wait for 2 years, 2.5 years. That's okay. At least when the book comes out, it will be the big publisher. It will be marketed, promoted in the big way. Some are like, 2 years might be a little longer. And thankfully, as an agency, we have on most occasions been able to get our authors more than one publishing contract. So we always have the option to choose from. So then we look at, okay, let's go with this publisher. Good publisher will probably bring it out in comparatively lesser time. So I think it's very important, as a literary agent, to provide your authors with opportunities and options. If there is no option, then, well, you have to take it or leave it, as simple as that, right?
Right.
But the idea is always to create options so that if you don't like A, you can work with B. If you don't like B, you can work with C. And same goes for the publisher. If a publisher doesn't like your book, you can always sell it to a B, C, D. So it's very important that you work with a wide range of publishers. So I think that's what one needs to do. Just to add to it before you ask your next question, I know it's been a little longish answer, sorry
No.
for that, but the point is that I'll tell you a very recent conversation that I had with someone. And people usually believe that if there is a publisher who's been doing certain kind of books, so for example, if there is a publisher who's been doing a lot of romance books, then they'll write a romance book and they will expect that, okay, this is the publisher we must work with. Fair enough, that's a good idea. But the ground reality might be different. The ground reality could also be that because the publisher has done so many books in the romance sphere, they may want to do something in the crime space now. Whereas the publisher, another publisher who's been doing a lot of mythological books, may now want to do something in the romance space. So, those things are things that you get to know because you're part of the industry, which obviously a writer would not be privy to. But I think it's just important to create a wide set of options for your author, so that at the end of the day, they get the best publisher who believes in their vision and can bring the book out in the best manner.
What was your first ever author agent experience like? Any fond or funny memories?
First author agent experience. So, well, the first book that actually released under our agency, the Book Bakers, was actually not my book. My book was probably the first signed, but wasn't the first to be released. So I don't think it's a funny experience, but it's a very heartwarming experience. So as I said, that I was at the National Law University in Delhi. So I was doing my 5 year BLLB honors course, and then the university just started a 2 year LLM program also. So over there was this, gentleman who was pursuing his LLM, and he got to know that I was into books, and we were starting off with a company. And he came to me and he said, "Suhail, I've actually written quotes. I've written quotes on love." And he had, Shweta, written 1402 quotes across 1402 days on love. Every single day he had written a quote. So, and that was his compilation, and that actually became the first book that we represented. And a very well-known publishing brand called Authors Press, who's known for poetry and quotes, took it up. And that was actually the first book that we did. I think that book released in October 2013 or so. And yeah, my book came out on 10th May 2014. So yeah, I mean that was a very very great experience, to have somebody else believe before the first book may have come out. So I think that was a very heartwarming incident. The gentleman's name was Dr. Sonu Gupta. So yeah, he holds a very special place in our heart.
How did you zero down on the name The Book Bakers, though it is an apt thing for a book agency? But how did this name get, like, you all decided, okay, The Book Bakers it is?
Uh, so I have actually no role to play in it. It's a compliment that I have received fairly often, that people say it's a very catchy name. And to be honest, I think given the fact that I am very involved in deciding titles for a lot of our authors' books. As my good friends at Srishti Publishers and distributors call me the title generator. So one would assume that I have named our company also, but the truth is that this name. So we were in the process of thinking what could be an appropriate name, and we were deciding and discussing. But this name was decided by my father, Mr. Sanjeev Mathur, who is also the co-founder of the Book Bakers, and of course, best-selling author himself. He's written Gunning for the Godman, which was published by HarperCollins. So he was the one who decided the name The Book Bakers, because we are making books, we're making them ready for people to, savor. So the Book Bakers, TBB, as we often call it, is a name that is entirely his creation. I'm not taking any credit, but yeah, I think credit where due. He's the one who came up with it.
Can you walk us through the
Very
process that when a new author approaches you, what is it
I
like?
think it's probably the first time somebody's asked me this question. I think it's the first time somebody's asked me this question in, I think, 11 years of being in the trade. So well done, Shweta. I think it's great, the kind of questions that you are asking. It's so refreshing to answer, because it also makes you think. Otherwise, what happens is that you get the same sort of questions, and you are obviously then going to give the same sort of answers, because you can't change it. You're speaking from experience. It's good to ask that. Yes, you were asking something else. Please wait.
So, can you walk us through the process when a new author approaches you? What's it like?
So see, the process remains the same whether it's a new author or an old author, because we like to treat all our authors equally. New or old in terms of experience or age, that's all right. So as I always joke that our oldest author was a 13-year-old girl from Pakistan, and our youngest author was this 91-year-old gentleman who did his autobiography. So I think that's the range in terms of age. And I think at the end of the day, we are all storytellers, and there is never an appropriate age to tell a story. A story can come at any point of time to anyone in any manner. So I think you have to recognize that, and you have to deliver on it. And so the process is fairly simple, Shweta. Anyone who wants to connect with us can always drop an email to us at thebookbakers@gmail.com. That's THEBOOKBAKERS@gmail.com. Share the first two chapters, a one-page synopsis, their bio, and most importantly, the total word count of the book, because word counts play a very crucial role these days. So I need those four things, and thereafter I connect with them. So I just want to at least gauge that is this a project or a product or a book rather that we would like to align ourselves with. A lot of times, people ask me that should we send you the full script for you to take a final call, and I tell them that yeah, we will need the full script eventually, but whether we want to align with this book in the first place or not is the initial submission is enough for us to tell that, because the synopsis gives me an idea about the storyline, and the sample chapters gives me an idea about the writing style, so I know what is to follow in what manner. And if you
Right.
know that, then you know that okay, is this something that interests you or not, so it's based on conviction. So if you are convinced that okay, this seems interesting, or the moment you hear it, you're like, okay, this is interesting, this is different, this is unique, I must do it. Then we take it up because I think the story needs to speak to you.
What catches your eye the most in a manuscript?
What catches my eye, the first thing that has to catch my eye is the word count, and I'll tell you why. And then once the word count is in order, of course the synopsis, because as I said, the story has to speak to me first of all. So I
Alive.
it really doesn't matter to me who the author is. You know, there are a lot of people who would first read the author bio. I think I do read the author bio, but that comes a little later in, you know, order of preference. The story has to speak. And why I mentioned the word counts also, Shweta, is because there have been books, you know, which have been sent to us, which are very amazing. You know, the concept is really nice, and then the writer will say that the total word count of the book is 11,000 words. So 11,000 words is like technically around, you know, at 300 words is around 37, 38 pages. So that's not a book, right? I mean, anything below 80 pages has to be stapled. You can't even, you know, have it bound. So then you have to tell them, unless now of course there are options that, you know, you can go ahead with a pocket book. So you can do a pocket book with where the size is a bit shorter. Okay, where is my other finger? Yeah, okay. And you know, so that it gets a thick spine. It gets a thick spine. So you have to understand, this is the first time I'm doing it on a new setup, right? So I have to see where my hands are going. So those problems will surface, but it's enjoyable nonetheless. So that option is there. Or, you know, there have also been people who've written to me and then they've said that the word count, and this happened very recently. Someone got back to me saying that my book's word count is 4,49,000. So I mean, 4,49,000, you know, it's like a 1,500 page book, and that would be priced also accordingly. So who's going to buy it? So
Exactly.
count also play a very crucial role. It's unfortunate, but the story has to be, the concept has to be very engaging. You know, just yesterday somebody sent me a book, and that person had come via a reference. Technically, if I would have taken up the book, I would have been able to place it. But, you know, just in the manner in which it was written did not appeal to me. It was, I mean, it was a travelogue, but it told nothing about the place, nothing about the history, nothing about the genesis, nothing for anyone who's reading to know more about the place. It was like, I went to a particular place, I had tea over there, I sat with my friend, we cracked jokes, end of the matter. अरे भाई आप बताइए तो सही कि आप किसी फोर्ट पे गए थे तो वो कौन से साल में बना था, who made it, what are the timings of going to that fort, what is unique about that fort. I mean, that's how a travelogue should also be, right? Apart from your experiences, tell the reader what they can take away from it. So I told that person, and I, so see, the idea is not to criticize, the idea is to construct. So I told him that, look, I think these are the problems. आप इस पे वर्क कर लो, इसमें कोई मुश्किल तो है नहीं. You know, you can figure out the story, you can meet people who know a little about it, and come back to me, and then I'll take it up. So I think that gentleman was also appreciative of the fact that it was actually a constructive criticism. You know, I could have always said that no, I'm not taking this up because it doesn't work, which is what I felt right now. But the idea is to not demoralize someone, but empower them in the longer run. So, you know, wherever it's possible, we take it up straight away. Wherever we feel that there is a need for the author to maybe do their beforehand, we also let them know.
So what's the ideal count where one should be like, okay, I have written these many words, I can now reach out to book bakers.
They can reach out to us any which ways because we're doing pocket books. So pocket books are basically anywhere between say 6,000 words to 15, 16,000 words. Your novellas, then the novellas start from 15,000 going up to 40,000, and anything above 40,000 is a length book. If you're doing fiction, 40 to 60,000 is a good place to be. With an upper limit, maybe say if you're doing a thriller, you could reach up to 70,000. If you're doing historicals or mythological, 75 or so. If you're doing non-fiction, the upper limit would be around 1 lakh words. But yeah, anything above that is danger territory, because it's then not about how good the script is, it's about the commercials from the publishers end, because it really hampers the costing. And if the costing goes high, then the sales will be low. So, that's how it works out.
You've represented so many authors. How do you balance creativity and business?
I only look at creativity. I don't look at business. That is how I balance it out. So the thing is that the work of a literary agent works on word of mouth. So if you're doing good work, will the business come in? So the point is that, I mean, see, the thing is that we do not take any royalties, from our authors. And as a business decision, that is something which may not be the best business practice, because, I mean, see, we've represented over 1500 books. Now just imagine, Shweta, 1500 books. If we were to get yearly royalties of those 1500 titles, in essence, I probably do not need to even sign up more books, and I could just sit, relax, and
Right.
chill for the rest of my life, right? But that's not the point. That's not the way we want to work. We recognize that the author is the one who's made the effort to write it. They're the creators of the content. Give them the entire shit. So we do not take even 1%. I mean, 100% of it is the authors, and I mean that's the way we like it. And it's not something that we've gotten to know now. Even when we started off, we decided that this would be the business model. There were a lot of friends, well wishers, who said, Suhail, किसी ना किसी दिन ना कोई तो एक बुक आएगी जहां पर यू से दैट अरे मैं परसेंटेज ले लेता तो मेरे इतने पैसे बन जाते। मैंने कहा नहीं, वो मेरा एजेंडा है ही नहीं। what gives me satisfaction is doing good work. It's not earning money, and I'll tell you why I'm saying that. Because sometimes, there are authors who come to you and say that, oh, Sohail, we'll double your fee or we'll triple your fee, but do our work first, so, or get us XYZ publisher. So I tell them that, look, money has got no correlation to my intensity with which I intend to pitch your script. I like your book, which is why I'm already taking it up. So it doesn't matter whether you are giving me 2x, 3x, 4x. No, that I don't require. So the thing is that I will do it at the same amount because I like your book. I will do it in the order in which you've sent me the script, because there are other authors also waiting in line, and for me all authors are equal. So I will treat everyone equally. They are waiting. Their books will go first. Yours will also go in the standard timeline template. So it's never about business for me. It's always about creativity. If you are good at creativity, business will also flow. Like they said in Three Idiots, that you have to run after excellence, then success will come. If you run after excellence and not the other way around. So I think that is what it is. And yeah, I think that is what I look at. I never look at it as a business call.
Has there ever been a book you pitched that got multiple rejections, but finally, when it was released, it was a super hit?
So see, this whole idea, Shweta, of romanticizing multiple rejections, seems to be something that has been started in our industry long ago to show that, oh, how great our struggle was and all. Let me just break the myth, because in our industry people don't like to break myths, but I always like to speak the fact. And the fact is that, here's the thing, that ask any publisher what they are looking for in a book, and they'll tell you the exact same three things. They're looking at a good story told in a good way, which has potential to sell a lot. So if every publisher is looking for the same three things, then either a book should be picked up by every publisher or rejected by every publisher, right? Because the yardstick is the same. But that doesn't happen, right? That doesn't happen because individual taste and preferences come into play. That doesn't happen because the marketing or commercial plans of that particular publisher for that particular year comes into play. So the point is that when you are making a submission, it does not matter whether 5 publishers rejected, 10 publishers rejected, or 12 publishers rejected. At the end of the day, what matters is, have you gotten that one publisher who says yes to your book? So, how many publishers are going to bring out your book in the market? One, right? One
One.
publisher is going to bring it out. One publisher who will put their imprint and bring it out, right? So, what matters is that, are you getting that one publisher or not? It does not matter who is that one publisher till such time that that publisher is putting their weight, might, and belief behind your project. So there have been so many. I think every book in the country would have faced rejections, even the biggest of the books, unless the second time around the publisher and the author along with the agency decided to do a straight away second, third, fourth. That is a different scenario. But I think someone or the other would have felt that this book doesn't work for us. So I think the mindset needs to change. And you know, Shweta, there are so many who create false narratives. I mean, I knew this author in the sense I was representing that author. Okay, and we had gotten we sent the book and we got two or three very big publishers uh, who were interested. Eventually, his book was brought out by Penguin. Okay, so you can understand the level of publishers that we're talking about over here in terms of scale. And I read one of his interviews and he said that, oh, it was so difficult. I had 50 rejections, 50, I had 50 rejections. And then it was a chance, opportunity that Penguin saw my book and they brought it. And I was like, dude, come on. Are there even 50 publishers to whom the book was sent out to in the first place? Okay, are there even 50 traditional fiction publishing houses in the country? So all those kind of narratives come about. So those make for good stories, but there's no reality in it. You know, so people like to create good stories. Well, they're storytellers. So I guess they should limit that to the book and not to how the book was, pitched in the first place. So I think be realistic. There will be a lot of people who will probably say no, not because it's a bad book. It could be because they're not working on that genre. It might be because it's a commercial call for them. you know so that's that. But what matters is who's the one who's taking it up. Take it up and make it a success.
One myth about literary agents that you wish people would stop believing.
One, I mean, see, I can't talk for others, but I'll definitely talk uh, for ourselves. I don't think there are many myths, to be really honest. I think, and that's because we are what we say we are. And I mean, if this interview is also any yardstick to go by, I think people know that I'm very frank, fair, honest, and direct in what I say. So I don't think there are many myths. Uh, the only myth that people have in general, not just with respect to literary agents, but in general, the publishing field, be it publishers and all, is that the author is the one who will have to toil hard and the publisher is the one who will make all the moolah and all. I don't think that's true. The publisher also has to toil equally hard. And I mean, because I've been an author and I as a literary agent, I get to know that. I think the most commercially beneficial industry in the publishing space is that of book marketing. Because of two reasons. The first reason is that the time spent to do an activity, a particular activity, is much lesser. So I mean, for example, if I'm doing an interview with you, right? It's a 15-20 minute interview. Someone will say that, or you will have a chat, and probably within a week's time, you will schedule the interview. It will be 20 minutes, it will go on air. Now, if someone approaches me, it'll take a week or 10 days to sign up. Then the documents will have to be created, then the edits will happen, then it will be pitched, then a publisher will ask for the full script. After signing, they will release it. लगभग 2-2.5 साल का प्रोसेस हो गया या 1 साल का प्रोसेस हो गया, ठीक है. सो पब्लिशर भी उतना टाइम ले रहा है उसको, फर्स्ट एडिट, सेकंड एडिट, टाइप सेट, कवर, Amazon listing. So for the time that one is investing and the money that is involved may not be akin to the effort that one is putting. I think uh, marketers are the smartest of the lot, obviously, because, and I sometimes really wish that I was one. I was like, sometimes I'm sitting, I'm like, okay, this person has made more money in 15 minutes than I've made in 2 years. Okay, so 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 yeah, I mean, all those things are there. But so I think the myth in general in the industry is that publishers make a lot of money. not agents per se, but publishers make a lot of money. But the fact is that it's an industry of low margins, as you also know. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I'll tell you a very funny incident. There was a publisher, a friend, who wanted to start his own publishing imprint. He was working in another company and he wanted to start his own publishing imprint. So he decided that he would do a lot of book distribution. And he was chatting with me, and we were drawing up a plan that what the costing could be and all those kind of things. And what happened at the end of it was that after doing all of that, by putting the book out in stores, giving it to the retailers, what that gentleman realized is that with the sale of every book, I'm not just saying print, with the sale of every book, he was incurring a loss of 16 rupees. Okay, 1/6. He was incurring a loss on a sale. So the point is that the markets are so awry, and the percentages that distributors take, and the listing, it's a very different ball game. Yeah, so it's not very easy or easy as it sounds. So yeah, I mean, everyone has to work very hard in the trade, and yeah, I think that is what it is basically.
What are the current trends you are noticing in the Indian publishing?
Well, I think the current trends have been current for too long now, which is that there is a greater emphasis on non-fiction these days. A lot of publishers look at non-fiction. Fiction, major publishers may not necessarily be looking at it, so you have to figure out who are the publishers who are. Some are still looking at it, or their parameters of looking at fiction may have changed. Short stories, poetry collections, their market is totally different now. So unless there are certain yardsticks that short story collections are fulfilling, you need to be very sure of who you're pitching it out to. So I think the trend is basically non-fiction. Anything and everything under non-fiction is doing well. It could be true crime, it could be politics, it could be sports, it could be cinema, it could be business, it could be biographies. It could be self-help, it could be religion, spirituality, mind, body, spirit. So many things under that. Those kind of things are doing very well. And yeah, current. I mean, as I said, they've been current for now 4 5 years. So yeah, but that's how it is. Because I mean, see, at the end of the day, a publisher also needs to make money. I mean, it's
Right.
a business. It's a creative business, yes, but it's a business nonetheless. So there have been cases where there were three people from one particular publishing house who reached out to me, and Shweta, they asked me exactly about the same things. So when I spoke to the third person, I told him that, look, I'll be honest with you, two of your colleagues, A and B, called me up and they asked me for the exact same things, same genre. So what is the difference if I have a book on cinema? Say Shweta has written about a book on her, interesting escapades in cinema. Do I send it out to colleague number A, colleague number B, or to you? So he said it's the same. It makes no difference. We're all looking at the same thing. And that's when you realize that, at the end of the day, all these teams are given their KRAs and they have to see at the end of the year who's bringing in maximum business. And because non-fiction is bringing in more business, that is what everyone is looking at because their sales target is aligned to it. Their jobs might be, affected by it should they do something. So creativity is an important component, but I think commerce now is a slightly more important component. So yeah, that's basically about it.
Since OTT platforms have taken over more than theaters and all, are they influencing the kind of books that get picked up today?
No, they were probably at one point of time. See, the point is that every publisher would like to take up a book which has potential to be turned into a visual adaptation. But I must go on record and say that, I think 99% of the fiction books that Indian authors write have the potential to be turned into visual adaptations. When we're talking about publishers taking up books for visual adaptation, that is usually in the non-fiction space, like a biography or a true crime or a business book or a courtroom drama that changed the world and all. And we've done those also. I mean, uh, we did Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, which is in essence a courtroom drama plus a human interest story. And Sagarika Chakravarti is our author. We did the book, and then Mr. Nikhil Advani made a movie on it starring Rani Mukherjee as well. So that's that. I mean, now also we're doing another show which is based on one of our books, Ghost Hunter, Gaurav Tiwari. It's going to come out on Amazon, MX, and it's called Bhai. So that's also true. But I think what publishers have also now realized is that the OTT bubble has now burst. Okay, when I said the bubble has burst, what it basically means is that when all these OTTs came onto the scene, it was understood that, oh, books are going to be taken up left, right, and center, and books were taken up left, right, and center, but by whom? By the producers, not by the platforms. So a lot of books were optioned, but they never reached acquisition stage because they were never taken up, right? Um, and I think now producers have also realized that buying books may not necessarily result in them selling, or because at the end of the day, the OTTs decide. And even if you look at the OTTs, there have been three or four OTTs which have shut down. There have been two or three
Yeah.
OTTs which have now merged, right? So there are technically just three or four OTTs now in the industry. You have Netflix, you have Amazon Prime, which MX Player has merged with Amazon, right? You have Sony Live, which is basically so yeah, you have Sony Live, you have Geo,
Hotstar.
you
Yeah,
have
which is
Hotstar, and so Geo Hotstar have now merged again. Which so Geo was basically, earlier you had Voot. So Voot
right.
and Hotstar are three now together, owned by the same parent company. So in essence, you're seeing that there are four platforms. There are just four platforms now, right? So it's obviously a little trickier, and non-fiction also these days becomes difficult to sell because in the past, you've had political dramas or books which were adapted, but there were legal cases around it. So now OTTs want to stay away from all the litigation, so they'll figure out what they should take. So I mean, it has its own set of challenges. There were no litigations happening around books, that why did they only take non-fiction and why not fiction. Now they've found some challenges with non-fiction as well. So I'm hoping that it means that they will look at fiction now, and not that now they'll not look at fiction and non-fiction both. So I hope that doesn't happen. And yeah. So I think fingers crossed. But I think now publishers, so Shweta, earlier there have been books which we were able to sell because the author had done an OTT deal. So or a production house had taken up the book. So the publisher thought that, okay, this book's been taken up. So I think when it releases, it'll do well. But then experience has taught everyone that an optioned book necessarily need not be an acquired book eventually. So now, if somebody has already optioned the OTT rights, chances are that the publisher would not be open to even taking up the book for publishing, because they all know that the majority of the money is in OTT. So if someone has already
Right.
sold the rights, then that money goes. Then that money goes. So it may actually work counterproductive now. So yeah, that's the shift that the industry has seen in the recent times.
And lastly, if you had one message for all the aspiring writers who are listening to this podcast, what would it be?
Very simple. Please get represented by the book bakers and send your submissions at, as I said, thebookbakers@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to take a look at it. I think genuinely, it's very important that you take care of your book and treat it with the necessary care. A lot of people give emphasis on speed. I give emphasis on quality. And I always try to tell people that speed is no substitute for quality. So doing fast work is not necessarily doing good work, which is not to say that one is not doing fast work. But there are people who have reached out saying that, sir, मेरी book release करवा दीजिए, अगले हफ्ते मेरा birthday है. So I mean, come on, how can someone have a book release in 7 days, or 6 days? I mean, probably self-publishing houses for that. But I mean, is that your goal? Is that your goal? Getting a book out in 6 days? I mean, you'll have your birthday the next year also, and the next two next. So why not make that special by putting in the necessary effort? So I think that's that. But yeah, the larger message is that please watch this lovely podcast that Shweta does. It's always a pleasure, connecting with her. And yes, do write into us, and we'll be happy to represent it should we like the story.
Thank you so much, Suhail, for joining us on this chitter chatter, and cheers to many more stories, signings, and bookish adventures.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me over. It's been great, and it's always a pleasure connecting with you. And good to see you, hale and hearty, fit and fine. I was very happy to see your post on um, I Want to Talk, because Abhishek Bachchan's also my favorite actor. So seeing that post, I was very happy. But I was also, relieved that you were in a better space post the unfortunate, accident. But here's to seeing you more often and collaborating more often, not only as a marketeer, which is the smart job to do these days, but also as an author, because I know that you're a very talented author yourself. So looking forward to many more books from you as well.
Likewise, the word count is already working in my mind. I shall get in touch soon.
Perfect. All right, Shweta, thanks a lot. Cheers. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye
Have a
bye.
good
Thank
weekend.
you.